Hey everyone, compared to the stories shared on this channel, mine might seem dull and ordinary. Nevertheless, here it goes. I'm 51 years old, my wife is 45, my son is 22, and my daughter is 20. We all live together. My son and daughter are college students. Back when I was 24, we lived a normal life, with its ups and downs, arguments and reconciliations. I own a small business, nothing too fancy, but it supports us. One spring day at work, I started feeling unwell. Age catching up, stress, and sensitivity to weather changes led to high blood pressure. I decided to head home early. When I got home, I heard raised voices coming from the living room. My wife, son, and daughter were arguing. I stood by the door and overheard their conversation. My son was accusing my wife of having an affair with one of his classmates, which apparently everyone at their college knew about. He had confronted the guy, leading to a fight. My daughter was hysterical, shouting, "Mom, how could you? If Dad finds out." My wife told them to stay out of her personal life and not to tell me. At this point, I couldn't take it anymore and walked into the room, managing to say only that I had heard everything. After that, I blacked out and woke up in the ICU with a heart attack. Later, when I was moved to a regular room, my wife visited me. Seeing her made me want to pass out again. She didn't visit me again. Only my kids did. My son withdrew from college and decided to join the army in the fall. He now works at my business, filling in for me. After rehab, I returned home to a tense atmosphere. My daughter wouldn't speak to her mother, and while my son did, it was strained. My wife and I lived like roommates, sleeping in separate rooms. She often stayed out overnight. When we talked, she didn't explain much, only saying it just happened and to forgive her if I could. I told her we'd divorce once I was better. She agreed, saying it was up to me. Autumn came, and it was time. I had often seen men in my situation wreck their families, only to regret it later. I thought women were smarter, but I was wrong. We had spent almost our entire lives together. I thought we'd grow old together. Now, that dream was gone. I had never cheated on her. And now I regretted that. There had been plenty of opportunities. My old friend suggested seeing a family therapist. But what's the point? She wouldn't go. She's too busy with her new love, Ruslan. I could go live with my mother, but my wife doesn't want to leave. Our second chance is unlikely, especially with the kids against it. My daughter hates her, and my son can't forgive himself for bringing Ruslan into our home. She doesn't want a second chance anyway. She's lost in her new relationship. I'm sorry for rambling. It's just the depression talking. It's hard not to drink, but I can't. On one hand, 24 years have been erased, but on the other, we raised our kids, so it wasn't for nothing. I fear the real nightmare is just starting. She cries at night, and I'm terrified of those tears. I understand, but don't think I can handle it. Next week, we're filing for divorce. I hope I don't have to wait long for grandchildren. My daughter's boyfriend has already proposed twice, and she might finally say yes. As for my wife, I dream of the day I'm free from this misery. My wife hasn't worked in 15 years, so kicking her out isn't an option. After the divorce, I'll be free, and my body is craving it. She doesn't visit her mother because their relationship is strained. They get along from a distance but fight when together. Despite everything, we spent a quarter-century together, and that's not nothing. After the official divorce, I think our family relationships were decent, with no major conflicts. My wife never worked, but as a homemaker, she was excellent. In bed, she was top-notch. I'm not sure how good I was, but she said she was satisfied. We were intimate 2 to 3 times a week. I was jealous a few times, especially early on, but nothing was confirmed. She never talked about what she lacked, not before or after the affair. She still doesn't. The next diary entry is from September 3rd of the same year. I didn't file for divorce then because I was still recovering from the heart attack. I didn't cheat because of my principles. I know it's old-fashioned, but that's how I am. I will divorce her. That's not up for debate. Does a fleeting passion justify ruining a family? Everyone has to decide that for themselves. We went to file for divorce on Tuesday, and she agreed. At home, she cries because of their issues, not just to manipulate me. Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. My son mentioned it. She's been able to push my buttons with her tears in the past, but this time it's different. I suspect hormones might be playing a role, and it's possible I missed signs before. Despite everything, She looks much younger than her 45 years. I constantly wonder what went wrong, but maybe she'll explain someday when she's thinking straight. It's hard accepting she's not mine anymore. I might eventually understand, but I'll never forget. Living together is awkward. She doesn't want to move out or accept money for her share of the property. I have a lawyer, and we only talk about practical matters. I found out about her affair from our son and daughter. Meanwhile, her relationship with Ruslan is flourishing. We've cut her finances. Our son gives her a small allowance for necessities. We're going to file for divorce on Tuesday, and I'll try to stay calm and see how she handles it. The next diary entry is from September 4th. Currently, my son manages the finances with my approval. He gives his mother a little money, but we share the fridge. No matter what, she's still the mother of my children and my partner for most of my life. I won't throw her out without support. We'll address financial matters reasonably after she comes back to reality. She's not leaving without her share, but she won't get it now. She won't finance her lover with my money. I speak to her only about everyday issues, avoiding any talk about her relationship. My son doesn't like her decision to join the army, but I support it. We'll see what the medical commission decides since he has vision problems. My daughter and I don't talk much about it. My wife asks for money, but I refuse. We avoid discussing personal matters. It's hard to shut out these thoughts, and I sleep poorly. I walk a lot and have stopped drinking entirely. I'm used to a regular intimate life, and while I have fears, I don't like clubs. I enjoy music and share her taste, with some additions from classic rock and folk. What keeps me going is probably habit and attachment. I no longer see her as my wife after everything that's happened. Still, I don't feel she's completely a stranger. I can't imagine kissing her again. The thought makes my stomach churn. I can't kick her out since she has a legal right to live here. We go to file for divorce tomorrow. I suggested doing it on Monday, but she claims she had things to do. This morning I went to smoke on the balcony, which I know I shouldn't, but I can't quit entirely. By chance, I overheard part of her phone conversation. She was either doing some sort of spell or ritual. I don't get it. She's filing for divorce yet messing around with that stuff. Is that normal? The next diary entry is from September 5th. We filed for divorce, but we have to wait a month. I decided not to drag out financial matters. We discussed with her and the lawyer that she'd get her money after the divorce. She was surprisingly calm during the process, no outbursts or breakdowns. Although she seemed jittery, I wasn't in great shape either. I'd had a minor heart scare before the major heart attack, which was frightening enough. Questions about why and how this happened constantly plague me. I haven't asked her yet, and honestly don't know if I will. I think Ruslan reminded her of someone from her past, making me feel she'd been thinking of someone else all these years. It's an unpleasant thought. As for having more kids, that's unlikely. I'm not planning to remarry, but never say never. In my youth, I knew a woman who had a child in her mid-20s with a 64-year-old man. Life can be strange. I try not to dwell on these thoughts, but they come unbidden. She apologized once when she returned from the rehab center. She said, "I'm sorry if you can forgive me." Can this be seen as an attempt to save the family? Hardly. I'm going to live in my apartment with the kids. I hope things will be okay. As soon as she gets her quarterly check, she plans to move in with her mother, but all the legal matters are handled by the lawyer. Entry from September 7th of that year. So for now, she's living with us. She says her mother will take her in. They're not on bad terms. Just can't live together for long periods. You know, that kind of mommy and Marina dynamic. But when my mother-in-law stayed with us for a few days, we were all hiding in different corners of the house. She's still registered at our place. I don't know when she'll unregister. I need to ask the lawyer. She doesn't want to move out yet. Today the lawyer called and laid out the same plan my friend suggested, almost verbatim. I've been going to work for 2 days now and barely see her. Less than a month left to wait. People do split amicably, and I really hope we can avoid any notorious comeback. Without money, I think she'll leave quickly. She seems calm now. I hope it stays that way and that she has the decency not to drag things out. Entry from September 8th of that year. I understand everything is over. My feelings towards her are mixed. Pity and anger. I don't hope to get her back. Forgiveness is out of the question. Some things can't be forgotten. I'm here to strengthen myself against any moment of weakness. The initial shock was overwhelming. When I was in intensive care, my thoughts were elsewhere, on survival. Her escapades took a back seat. Later, when I realized I would survive, I had to understand what had happened. I was hit from 2 directions, and it took a toll on me. My daughter won't even talk to her. She said if her mother doesn't leave, she'll find a place to stay on her own. I don't want to lose my daughter. My son is around more often now. He's been struggling and isn't socializing much. Work helped him get back on track, with new people and a change of scenery. I've been watching him these days. He's handling things well. I'm proud of him. I know my weaknesses, so I talk about them to avoid doing something stupid. I hope she'll leave for good in a month, though I have my doubts. Entry from September 25th of that year. Thursday evening, we had a long talk. She answered my questions. She hoped no one would find out and that she could just get a fresh wave of emotions, something missing in our marriage. She didn't expect it to affect the kids and us so much. She told me the kids are mine and that I can get a test to confirm. She hopes I find a good woman and be happy. Those were her exact words. About her lover, she said she feels younger by 20 years with him. She's planning to rent an apartment with him once she gets some money. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you. I gave her enough for a month's rent to leave as soon as possible. From now on, they can figure things out themselves. I told her I don't want to see her again, and that she should stay out of my life. I hope that was our last meeting. I couldn't sleep all night, and in the morning, I had an episode of phone anxiety. An old friend called, and I poured my heart out. I raised the Jolly Roger earlier than planned, and I have no regrets. I don't expect her to come back with tears and pleas. Maybe just a little, but no crawling on her knees. I needed answers. The uncertainty was driving me crazy. Now the dots are connected, and I have nothing more to say. When the doors closed, I could walk my path, albeit unsteadily, but walk nonetheless. She can go her way. Entry from November 10th of that year. I'm perfectly fine now. I spent a month and a half in a rehab center, cutting all ties. I didn't go anywhere after that, just walked around, slept 12 hours a day, read, and watched movies. I started to recover. I tried not to think or remember so I wasn't around. The divorce went smoothly. The lawyer took care of everything. I haven't heard a word from my ex, and that's fine by me. My son got a deferral for his eyesight. For 2 months, my heart hasn't troubled me at all. In August and September, it hurt almost every day. The kids are fine too. I'm getting back on my feet. I don't want to dwell on the past, but I'll occasionally update my journal if something comes up. I just wanted to disconnect from it all because it was overwhelming back then. I no longer see Svetka. I don't want to. St. Petersburg is now off limits for me. My daughter and son live with me. The place is big enough for all of us. We had an open floor plan, so everyone had space. Now, with fewer people, it's still comfortable. My daughter and son are independent now. We used to be closer when they were younger, going on trips and fishing. Now they have their own lives. But our relationship is still good. My ex hasn't shown up since the divorce. My son talks to her, but I don't interfere. She's out of my life. Entry from December 3rd of that year. No idea how my ex is doing. No news, and that's great. I still feel something deeper than my heart. It's hard to explain. No resentment, no desire to get back together. I can't figure out my own feelings. The kids have their own lives, and I don't meddle. My sense of loneliness is gone. I told my ex-mother-in-law not to mention her daughter to me, and she doesn't. They might meet up, but I don't care. Looking back, I can't believe I didn't see it coming. Maybe I was just too trusting. I told myself that she was a woman of low but useful social responsibility. Now I'm fine with spending money wisely. I don't know her new guy, but he seems slick. They'll blow through the money by New Year's or a bit later. She hasn't worked in 15 years, no skills. She might find a job, but it won't pay much. I'm not bothered by it. I understand I'm not alone in this. The uniqueness of my situation is that I'm living it. Did your ex blame you for everything? I just gave her money to leave. I don't expect it to take long. Once she's gone, I can move on. The lawyer will handle everything. I haven't decided where to go yet. A friend of mine lives in Pittsburgh. She works at a company we supply equipment to. We met when I went there for a contract. We were both hit hard by it, but decided to stay friends. Nothing happened. I went home, and we didn't talk for years. We occasionally called, and she told me she kicked her husband out after finding out about his affair. She remarried later. I called her in a state of nervousness, told her about my heart attack and divorce, and she came by that evening. I didn't plan it, just needed to talk to someone close. No passion, no big emotions. but it's nice. I don't know what to do with it. Entry from December 19th of that year. Women need social interaction. Sitting in four walls is suffocating. I told my ex this many times, but it was her choice. Talking to colleagues keeps your mind sharp, but doesn't let you relax. Work problems shift your brain to another mode, so you don't obsess over the same thing. I'm not looking for serious relationships. She knows and accepts this. We met recently. To be honest, women of low social responsibility aren't my thing. I'll be away for the holidays and won't return until late January. I wish you all a happy new year and all the best for the holidays. Thanks for listening.